I've had the privilege so far as a seminarian and I guess the first few months or so as a priest, but I've had the privilege to visit many very beautiful churches. There's a couple that stand out in my mind. Of course, there's St. Peter's in Rome, which just kind of overwhelms you with how big everything is. I mean, St. Peter's, you kind of almost have to kind of reach up to get in, like the holy water fonts. It's kind of just ridiculous. There's the home parish of Father Minh Vu in Vietnam that's in the middle of just this little small village where the parishioners, they managed to build for themselves, I mean, literally built the church themselves, a church that's majestic and colorful and just ornately decorated in a style that it's both obviously Asian and obviously Catholic. Or I also think about Good Shepherd Parish in Columbia, Kentucky, where I spent part of a summer as a seminarian, which is just a picture-perfect, simple little church in the country surrounded by farmland. But there's one church I visited that literally made my jaw drop when I walked inside. And that is Sagrada Familia Basilica in Barcelona, Spain. So partly that's due to just the soaring columns that when they get up towards the roof, they kind of separate and intertwine. It looks like tree branches, and so it makes you feel like you're kind of walking in a forest made of stone. But really, what it was that I remember most is the stained glass. There's these large windows that are full of just vividly tinted glass that surround the basilica and just flood the interior with this just very rich, very richly colored, bright light that I've never seen really anywhere else. And our tour guide, as we were going through the church, he explained that the windows, around the church are different colors. So as the sun moves across the sky, the light in the church kind of shifts from being mostly blue to green to orange, red, etc. And, so what made the impression on me upon entering that church, it was not so much the windows themselves, but it was the light that shone through them. So that's great, Father Stephen, I hear you all thinking. I'm glad you got to see that. Now, what does that have to do with the readings? That's a very good question. I'll get there in 1 second. So on its own, without any of the sunlight, stained glass is just a dull, dark void. Have you ever been inside a church at night or, see the windows from outside? They're just kind of blank. The glass may form a beautiful image, but if there's not any light, you don't get to see any of that. But when the sun shines through the window, well, then the image becomes bright and radiant. You see, the glass doesn't exist for its own sake, but in order to let the light shine through it. But on the other hand, of course, the glass has an important contribution to make as well, because it adds its own unique color, giving the light that passes through it a unique expression. And when you get a whole bunch of pieces of stained glass that are carefully arranged together by an artist, and then the light shines through them, well, then you get a beautiful image that all can admire. So here's where this connects to the readings. We heard from Isaiah, "The Lord said to me, 'You are my servant Israel, through whom I show my glory.'" You see, we are the stained glass, and God is the sunlight. We are made to let God's glory shine through our lives. But that's not all, because in that same reading, the Lord's servant responds, "I am made glorious in the sight of the Lord." This is the paradox of Christianity, that the more that we glorify God, the more glorious we ourselves become. My grandfather was a Presbyterian pastor and missionary, and so my mom grew up learning the shorter Westminster Catechism, and only part of it I ever learned was the very first question and answer, which is, what is the chief end of man? Man's chief end is to glorify God and to enjoy him forever. Some of you perhaps were taught substantially the same thing in different words in question 6 of the Baltimore Catechism. Why did God make you? God made me to know him, to love him, and to serve him in this world, and to be happy with him forever in the next. I had to look that up on the internet. Some of you probably spit it right out. This is what St. Paul is talking about when he greets the Corinthians at the beginning of his letter, telling them that they have been called to be holy. He's saying to them and to us that you are a piece of beautiful stained glass. But in order for that beauty to show, in order for you to be who you're meant to be, well, you have to let the light shine through. The more that we clean and polish, turn that piece of glass so that it's facing the sunlight shines clearly through it, well, then the more that the glass's own color is revealed. The more that we become like Christ, the more that we truly become ourselves. The famous words of St. Irenaeus, who's one of the early church fathers, the glory of God is man fully alive. Okay, so this all sounds very kind of grand and glorious and abstract. I mean, it can be all very well and good to hear about glorifying God, letting God's light shine through my life, but, well, then there's, my house that's a mess. There's my job that I hate. There's my parent who's sick, my kids who never call. And, of course, in the middle of all that, there's me. There's grouchy, tired, frustrated, lonely, scared, hopeless me. But see, it's precisely in those ordinary activities of everyday life that we encounter God's light and glorify him. Those few minutes that you spend emptying the dishwasher or cleaning the toilet or driving to the store, you can make that a time of prayer. This is no joke. God has given me some very powerful moments of insight and consolation while I've been folding laundry. So when your coworker or classmate or spouse or sibling does that thing that just drives you up the wall, you can just let it go rather than snapping back with a smart remark. See, becoming holy, that is, becoming the best version of ourselves. It's about letting that light of God's glory to shine on us and to shine through us. And that means, of course, we have to turn so that we're facing the light. John the Baptist shows us which direction to face. He points to Jesus. There he is. He points to Jesus. That's why every chair in this church is pointed towards the altar. That's why we gather here, well, I guess except for ours today, but that's just unusual. We point towards the altar, and it's why we gather here as a community every Sunday, so that we can face the light, so that we can behold the Lamb of God, who takes away the sins of the world, so that we might be made glorious in the sight of the Lord.